Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
This program is brought to you by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network on DCTV.
The News at Noon program is the best assembly of news and local weather for the Four Corners region. Give us your feedback and news alerts at 677-4119.
With all that said, I'm Kendra Cook and my co-host is Kelsey Kiesling. And now for March 14th, 2016, here's the news. According to the Cortez Journal, fishermen reported hundreds of fish died off on Friday morning in the two retainment ponds that border the Dolores at McPhee Reservoir. A tour of the area revealed more than 300 dead trout, kokanee salmon, and carp ranging in size from 6 inches to 18 inches floating on the shores of both large ponds. The ponds are isolated from the main body of the reservoir because of low water levels. They were recently iced over but have since melted. Jim White, a fish biologist with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, said this is the time of year when there can be natural fish kills in shallow bodies of water because of ice and lack of oxygen. He said that McPhee fish die-off is not from a toxic pollution source. A head gate and pipe from the adjacent Dolores River is designed to keep the ponds full of fresh water, but the system is not working because the intake pipe is often above the flow of the river. It's uncertain who has jurisdiction for maintaining the intake pipe, a question that's been debated by federal agencies for the past year. The San Juan National Forest manages the shores and the lake bottom when it is dry. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation built the reservoir's infrastructure. The Dolores Water Conservancy District manages the water for irrigation, and the Colorado Parks and Wildlife is responsible for the fishery.
According to the Cortez Journal, a jury could not reach a verdict Wednesday on a woman accused of vehicular homicide in a crash that killed 2 people on County Road G in 2014, according to a district court clerk. The hung jury means the 12 jurors could not come to a unanimous agreement on a guilty or not guilty verdict. A new trial was set for mid-June. Prosecuting attorney Sean Murray argued Wednesday that law enforcement officials ignored every piece of truth in their investigation of a crash in the 6800 block of County Road G that left 2 people dead and several others with severe injuries on December 13, 2014. Rowena Jean Yanito, 33, of Bluff, Utah, is accused of vehicular homicide, vehicular assault, reckless driving, and driving under the influence in the crash. Murray and defense attorney Catherine Whitney made closing arguments Wednesday in Montezuma District Court in Cortez before Judge Douglas Walker. In the crash, a 2006 Chrysler Pacifica struck a 2012 Nissan Sentra and then burst into flames, according to court documents. But Whitney, representing Yanito, said it wasn't clear that Yanito was the driver of the Pacifica because Janine Black, 27, had admitted several times that she was driving the car. Black was arrested December 18, 2014, and held on a $25,000 bond. She was released from jail about 6 months later in June 2015 after law enforcement officials said she had been wrongly charged.
From the Durango Herald, the 2014 domestic violence murder case in Dove Creek was declared a mistrial in Dolores Combined Court after a jury pool was exhausted. This reported by 22nd District Attorney Will First. First said it was the first time he had experienced an exhausted jury pool. The court summoned 250 jurors from Dolores County and 142 responded. But after 3 days of jury selection, the court could not find enough jurors to continue. In the case, William Blackburn, 45, of Dove Creek, is charged with second-degree murder as an act of domestic violence resulting in the death of Cindy Johnson, 61, on January 7, 2014. The court couldn't find enough suitable jurors because of close relationships between people in Dove Creek and witnesses who might be called to testify in the trial. About 700 people live in Dove Creek. First said he asked that the court be allowed to find more jurors under a statute that allowed a judge to seek no more than 24 additional jurors. Plouffe denied that request and declared a mistrial. The trial was rescheduled for May 16th, but there may be timing conflicts with certain witnesses in the case. Attorneys for the defense have renewed a request for a change of venue. The two parties are set to litigate that issue in a hearing at 2:30 p.m. March 24th in Dolores Combined Court before District Court Judge Todd Plouffe. That hearing will be open to the public.
According to the Cortez Journal, Colorado Democrats on Tuesday advanced legislation that would prohibit gay conversion therapy for minors, though the bill faces an uphill battle. Teens usually are targeted for the controversial practice in which therapists seek to change a person's sexual orientation. Therapy often is aimed at a person's gender expressions in an effort to reverse same-sex attractions. This conversion therapy has proved damaging to those who undergo it, especially when it is imposed on children, said Representative Paul Rosenthal, Democrat of Denver, a gay lawmaker who sponsored the legislation. The bill would prohibit the therapy with a patient younger than 18 years old. The Democratic-controlled House Public Health Care and Human Services Committee advanced the measure to the full House on a 7-6 party line vote. It's likely that the bill will make it through the House, but it probably won't make it through the full legislature. A similar bill passed the House last year with only one Republican, Representative Dan Thurlow of Grand Junction, joining Democrats in supporting the measure. The Republican-controlled Senate later rejected the bill, which it is expected to do again this year. Critics of the bill say the state should not deny what they believe is valuable therapy. Some who underwent the practice testified that it helped them discover their real self. Why does the state of Colorado want me to make the help that I needed back then so desperately illegal? Asked Robin Goodspeed, who said the therapy along with religion helped her convert to heterosexuality. Representative Kathleen Conti, Republican of Littleton, repeatedly asked licensed mental health professionals who attended the hearing for their thoughts. Several professionals who testified discredited conversion therapy. Some compared the practice to lobotomy treatment, suggesting that it causes psychological wounds. Proponents of the bill, some with tears in their eyes, challenged the notion that being gay requires therapy. Moreover, they said the therapy results in a false shame that can lead to suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, and depression.
Reported by the Durango Herald, as schools across Colorado are preparing for state standardized testing in March and April, most students in Mancos will likely not take part. Mancos School District RE6, as well as 9 other rural Colorado districts, are part of the Student-Centered Accountability Project, which is working on an alternative to standardized state tests, this according to Superintendent Brian Hansen. Instead of relying on the state's Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers test and Colorado Measures of Academic Success test, the project aims to develop a more holistic system, but still adhere to state standards. The Colorado Board of Education granted the pilot project 1 year to help develop the system and 5 years to implement and refine it. Hansen would like to see the schools judged on tests that teachers are already using and tests such as the ACT that are required for college. In addition to testing, he would like to include the effectiveness of the teachers and leaders and how well teachers are preparing students for careers and the workforce, among other values. The 9 districts have agreed to meaningful learning, professional culture, and resource allocation as the 3 areas that they would like to be judged. The community seems to support the efforts to de-emphasize standardized results. About 96% of Mancos students opted out of the tests last year, and Hansen expects the same this year.
According to the Cortez Journal, McPhee Reservoir managers announced Friday that the forecast calls for a whitewater release below McPhee Dam. Based on this year's impressive snowpack in the mountains, runoff forecasts show the reservoir will fill and there will be 68,000 acre-feet available for a spill into the lower Dolores River. Here's the plan if the snowpack holds. On May 17th, flows below the dam would be increased to 500 cubic feet per second. It would ramp up to 900 on May 18th, then 1,300 cubic feet per second on May 19th, and 1,500 CFS on May 20th. From May 21st to 25th, the plan is to max out the flows at 2,000 CFS. Then they will drop slightly to 1,800 CFS from May 26th to June 1st for the Memorial Day weekend. On June 2nd, flows will be reduced to 1,400, drop 1,000 cubic feet per second on June 3rd to 800 CFS on June 4th and 5th to 600 CFS on June 6th and 7th to 400 CFS for June 8th and 9th, then 200 CFS for June 10th and 11th. Minimal rafting flows is 600 to 800 cubic feet per second, and for kayaks it is 300 to 400 cubic feet per second. Tubing could be done at 200. The boating community is excited but cautious, said Josh Munson, Vice President of the Dolores River Boating Advocates. There has not been a whitewater release below the dam since 2011. The surge of water into the lower canyon will benefit the natural environment, Munson said, and create an economic boon to the area as recreational boaters descend to the various launch sites. And now, here's our weather report.
For the regional weather graphic, you can see the Four Corners is mostly clear, while the winds are set to be gusty this afternoon into the 20 to 30 mile per hour range, and a lingering small chance of precipitation is looking less likely as the moisture is staying further to our north. Nationally, that Pacific Northwest storm is moving through the Midwest and on east this week. The national forecast graphic shows that we are just below the low pressure line that may bring snow to a few areas to our north in the mountains and scattered rains, but our current path looks clear with a nice warming high pressure moving up from our south, which brings us to our local 5-day forecast. Most of the week ahead, we'll see the high temperatures move from the upper 50s to the 60s, and the lows overnight sticking around the upper 20s or just around the freezing mark until Friday, when some colder air may move in on the weekend, remaining sunny, but kicking down the overnights, potentially back into the upper teens again. The next potential for rain may be a week from today, but that's too early to tell. What we can tell you is last week's CO2 report shows 403.97 parts per million, a tad down from the previous week reading at 404.01, while a year ago it shows 401.88 and a 10-year estimate back at 382.91. This from the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii, where it will reach a high of 82 with scattered showers off and on and a sticky 81% humidity. I'll be thankful for today's weather here, even with the annoying gusty winds. And now, back to Kelsey with more news.
According to the Cortez Journal, the holiday season was not as strong as predicted, but December still was a record-setting month for Durango retailers. December sales tax collections increased 3.8% to $1.62 million from about $1.56 million collected in December 2014. He wanted to see a 6% to 7% increase in sales tax in December compared with the previous shopping season. December is usually the highest or second to highest month for sales in the city. While sales and lodgers' taxes sometimes correlate, that was not the case this holiday season. Lodgers' tax collections of $56,000 were a slight decline, about 1.2% from about $57,000 collected in December 2014. During the prior two holiday seasons, the lodgers' tax collections increased in the double digits. December 2014 increased 23% over the previous year. The decline in travelers is likely related to the slowdown in the oil and gas industry in New Mexico, Texas, and Utah, said Michelle Tom, general manager for the Strater Hotel. Many people working in the industry drive to Durango for the holidays, she said. To help bolster local lodging businesses, an industry group to represent hotel and motels in the area is forming, Tom said. After initial meetings last year, the group should be running in April. It will help business owners understand issues such as the lodger's tax rate, vacation rentals, and panhandling, said Tom, chairwoman of the Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association.
According to the Durango Herald, Flagstaff, Arizona may join several other U.S. cities in creating an Indigenous Peoples Day. Council members voted unanimously last week to have city staff start a process to determine whether the city will move forward with the idea. The holiday would encourage celebrating Native American culture annually on Columbus Day, the second Monday in October. This, as reported from the Arizona Daily Sun. Indigenous Peoples Day would not replace Columbus Day in Flagstaff. About 100 people in favor of the move attended the council meeting and some spoke in support. Councilwoman Ava Putzova's process calls for city staff to present a report in the coming months on the implementation of Flagstaff's Memorandum of Understanding with the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. City staff will also set down town hall meetings for the public and tribes to provide input and then consider creating the new holiday. At least 9 cities celebrated Indigenous Peoples Days for the first time last year, including Albuquerque and Portland, Oregon.
According to the Cortez Journal, architectural drawings and an artist's rendition of the new Montezuma County Combined Courthouse have been released to the public. The design includes earthen-colored stucco, a circular Kiva-styled community room, rows of inset windows, and a covered entryway. The 32,400 square foot courthouse will be located on Driscoll Street next to the county jail and sheriff's office. It is expected to cost between $7.5 million and $8 million. The construction timetable is 18 months, with completion expected by summer 2017. It will house district and county courts and is the last courthouse in the state to consolidate both courts into one location. Visitors will enter into a large lobby and reception area in front of the court clerk offices. There will be 2 district courtrooms and 1 county courtroom. A lower-level secure Sally port will bring in defendants for court procedures, and they will be kept separated from the staff and general public. There will be staff bathrooms and public bathrooms, probation offices, jury deliberation rooms, judges' chambers, a public file room, family court area, work rooms, break rooms, information technology offices, mail room, collections/investigations office, and storage areas. An exact budget is still being determined. The project will be paid for in-house and through grants. The Department of Local Affairs has awarded the county a $2 million grant. The underfunded court system is providing $586,000, and the county has committed $5 million from its reserves. The project's architect is Humphreys Pulley Architects. Request for proposals for the general contractor have been submitted. The county will be interviewing FCI constructors, Jane's Construction Company, and Nunn Construction to determine who gets the job. Hiring local subcontractors is a priority for the county. Plans and courthouse drawings are on display at the Commissioners' Meeting Room and on the county website.
The Cortez Journal reported that the Southern Ute Tribal Council is calling for the dissolution of the Southern Ute Cultural Center and Museum's nonprofit status, which leaves questions about jobs, the exhibits, and the fate of the facility. After negotiating for months, council members and the museum board of directors are expected to soon sign an agreement to dismantle the 501c3 designation. 5 years after the nonprofit opened the facility could fall under tribal management. Shirley Cloudlane, the third museum director, said tribal council are withholding paychecks, refusing to pay the museum's 7 staff members until the dissolution agreement is signed. Museum personnel believe the crux of the issue is that the council wants to replace them with tribal members. In January, Ronald Yellowbird, vice chairman of the museum board of directors, wrote in an opinion piece to the Durango Herald that the tribal council is closing its pocketbook on the museum and expressed doubts about the implications of giving up nonprofit designation. The 30,000 square foot facility holds more than 1,500 items, including a sacred vault of native artifacts. The museum has struggled since opening in June of 2011 on an 8.5-acre site near the Sky Ute Casino and Resort. The facility replaced the museum next to the former casino on Colorado Highway 172, which closed in 2009. Tribal Council agreed to provide $5 million for museum operations on the condition that the museum would match that and achieve sustainability in 5 years, by September of 2015. That deadline passed. Once nonprofit status dissolves, the tribe must renegotiate the collections with the donors or give them back. Ripple effects of the negotiations are unclear, but those with ties to the museum are troubled by the news, including affiliates of the Colorado and New Mexico Scenic Byway, on which the museum is one of the first stops.
And now for this week's Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup. A resident is missing a male white lab with a green collar. Please call the sheriff's office if you find a dog that matches this description. The sheriff's office received a report of a vehicle accident on Highway 145. Colorado State Patrol was contacted to respond. The sheriff's office investigated a report of chickens being killed by a dog. A deputy responded to a fire alarm reported at the elementary school. It was a false alarm. A deputy responded to a resident's report of threats on a juvenile. That's all for today's Sheriff's Roundup. I will have more reports as the week progresses, so stay tuned.
And in the high country happenings, the 4 States Agricultural Exposition begins this week, opening Thursday, March 17th through the 19th. Go online to 4statesagexpo.com for the complete listing of scheduled events. Tonight, Monday, March 14th, in Dolores County, the public hearing for a new potential Kinder Morgan 29 well and pipeline tied into existing structure will be held in the Commissioner's boardroom at the courthouse in Dove Creek. Surrounding neighbors have been notified by mail, and the meeting is open to the public. Tuesday, March 15th, Cortez City Council Candidate Forum will be held from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at their City Hall. Learn about the candidates and election procedures and submit written questions about city issues. This is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Montezuma County. For details, you can contact Eleanor Kuhl at 564-0708 or ekuhl@frontier.net. And today is Pi Day. No, not those delicious fruit treats, but the mathematical constant that starts with 3.14 and beyond. So go celebrate at 3:14 p.m. the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. Pi has been calculated to over 1 trillion digits beyond its decimal point. As an irrational and transcendental number, it will continue infinitely without repetition or pattern. So now you know. We'd love to share information about what's happening to support all of the regional groups, individuals, and communities, so please let us know your event by sending an email to dcbnnews@gmail.com or call 970-677-4119. And we're adding all of this info to our Facebook page as well.
Again, thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon and rebroadcasted at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1 Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable Channel 5.
And you can also rewatch the broadcasts on YouTube at the DCTV News at Noon channel. And please like us on the DCTV News at Noon Facebook page and follow us on Twitter.
For Kendra Cook and all those who are working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time.